welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Red Ice Creations Radio. My name is Henrik Palmgren. The website is redicecreations.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today we have an urgent issue that we want to cover, so pay close attention, please, especially if you're in the UK and in around Yorkshire. Tomorrow, July 2nd, between 10 a.m. and 11:30, David Icke is holding a press conference taking questions from the media because he is standing with David Davis in the upcoming parliamentary Big Brother by-election. And we have David with us on the line to tell us more about this. David, it's great to have you back on the program again. Tell us where you are and what the heck is going on.
Hello, Henrik. What the heck's going on? It's my life. Who knows? I'm up in constituency within the parliamentary system in Britain, near a place called Hull on the east coast. And I'm standing in a by-election which has come about in a way that's very relevant to what I've been doing for the last 20 years. The opposition Home Affairs spokesman, a man called David Davis, who you mentioned, resigned his seat in Parliament just a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, in protest at the emerging Big Brother state in Britain. And this was, it seemed, culminated in the manipulation by the government through outrageous means, a law which is going to allow the police to hold people, quote, terrorist suspects, for up to 42 days without charge and without any need to present them with any reason why they are being held. And I was not going to stand in this election. I've never stood in an election, and I never will again. It's just this is about Big Brother. But I was not going to stand if the government party here, the Labour Party, had stood against him. They chose not to, for a very simple reason. They'd have got slaughtered, because people are now, in ever larger numbers, becoming aware that Big Brother ain't coming, he's here. And
Right.
In Britain, it's now going into the fine detail of people's lives, as it is elsewhere. The reason I'm standing is because David Davis is dealing with this on one level. He's saying that we must stop the Labour government in power currently, once headed by Blair, now by a guy called Gordon Brown,
Right.
bringing in the Big Brother state. Now, if that's the level, the only level that we operate on, then we're going nowhere, because the Big Brother state is global. It's happening in country after country after country at the same time.
Yeah.
And therefore, is the Labour government in Britain responsible for it happening in America and in Canada and in Sweden, in France, in Germany? I had a German film crew come to talk to me a few days ago, and they were going on and on about the fact that the Big Brother state's coming in Germany.
Yeah.
Is it happening because of the Labour government in Australia? The point being that what David Davis is focusing on, while admirable and commendable that he's taken this stance, if it becomes just a party political thing, like we must stop the Labour government doing this, then basically we're going nowhere. And so I'm standing to make the point that Big Brother is much bigger than David Davis appears to understand. And we have to ask the question, what is the coordinating force that is making this happen all over the world at the same time? Because it certainly ain't the Labour government. The Labour government in Britain is the vehicle for it being introduced in this country, but it's only that. It's like focusing on the oil rag and missing the engineer.
Right.
And the engineer is this network of bloodline families, which I've been exposing now for the best part of 2 decades. And that's the point I'm standing to make. Not to win. I have no desire to win. If I by some miracle of miracles won, I'd be on the next plane to South America, because the last thing I want to do is to get caught in that web of deceit and mendacity and corruption that is the Westminster Parliament, and indeed every other parliament, it seems to me.
Well,
It's
exactly.
not about winning. If I get 0 votes, fine. It don't matter to me, as long as people have registered through David Davis or me a protest against the Big Brother state. But even more than that, have registered within themselves that this is not just about one government in one country. I think we've talked before, Henrik, about the way I've described how you could control an apparently two-party state simply by manipulating mayhem and infighting within the party that you don't want to win at that time.
Right.
If you've got two parties, and what's happened in this country is that back in the 80s, the Labour Party was, or the late 70s actually, the Labour Party was brought into total disarray, infighting, battling in on itself, and was throughout the 1980s, from 1979 when Margaret Thatcher got in, right the way through to the mid-90s, was considered unelectable by the people because of its infighting and because of the lack of credibility of the people that rose to become its leader. And therefore, through the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher got more and more unpopular, and the Tory government got more and more unpopular. But people were saying, well, what can you do? You know, we don't want to vote for her, but you know, well, look, what's the alternative? We got no choice.
Right.
And then in the mid-90s, a guy called Tony Blair was made leader of the then opposition Labour Party, at which point everything changed. Rupert Murdoch's newspapers, for the first time in their history, switched their support to Blair. Blair became leader of the Labour Party, and in 1997, whereby now the Conservative Party was full of infighting, was in disarray, and collapsing in on itself, Blair came to power, and he stayed there for 10 years, invading people, bringing in this big brother state at an alarming rate. And people were saying, we don't want to vote for him, but you can't vote for the Conservatives. Look at the state they're in. And now, with Blair gone and replaced by this guy Gordon Brown, there is a campaign, a daily campaign, to destroy the credibility of Gordon Brown and the Labour Party, because there's a guy called David Cameron from David Davis's party, funnily enough, who is the next chosen one to come in and take over. And there's a simple rule with this two-party manipulation I've just described. Whichever party is in government introduces the agenda for the Orwellian state. Whichever party is in opposition opposes it. Then we have an election, a farce of an election. They change places, and then the government that introduced the agenda is now the opposition party, so it opposes it, and vice versa. And that's how it works. And we have another point that I want to make as a result of this election, which is David Davis is focusing on surveillance cameras and DNA databases, and quite right too. That's a fundamental part of this Orwellian state. But it's not. It's only one level of it. The European Union is a massive part of this big brother state, because what is the big brother state? It's the few dictating to the lives and controlling the lives of the many. And that's what the European Union is designed to do. And just to make the point that I've just made about this two-party